All right, guys. Um, I am Max Haffen. I'm one of the two current tutor tutors at the NJIT SIGGRAPH, and I am a third year student. And um, the picture in the background here is probably my favorite thing that I've made with proceduralism. And let's hop into it. I'll just start this in the background while I'm talking. Um, I am a I'm a third year. I think proceduralism is particularly powerful because of the quickness that you can get a really highly detailed model or project that has just a lot of automatic complexity that is almost built into your projects versus you having to go through and individually place these sort of things. You can either simulate them or you can uh, put together rules and parameters to generate larger scale projects. So let's see. So why would you use proceduralism? Basically, what you want to be able to create fast products that you can go back and edit at a later date. So you want art directable content. So what I mean by that is if your manager or your client at some point comes back to you and says that he doesn't like this one part of the project, and if you could change it, it would mean the world to him or whatever. Um, you can, with proceduralism, you can go back and change that one asset no matter where it is in the pipeline. If it's right at the beginning, you can go back, change that little thing, and you'll still have the full project. It gives you a very easy way to edit your projects. All right, so let's go look at some pictures. Um, so yeah, some advantages. On the left here, you see a bunch of gears and repeating patterns. So basically, if you wanted to create this gear manually, you would have to like go through, select all these, pull them out an exact amount, and it'd be very tedious to make this repeating pattern. But with procedural building, you can tell the gear like this radius and then every other segment extrude to this amount, and then you can later on, if you're the guy who's making this wants to use it and change it from this big gear to this small gear, all they have to do is shrink your starting circle and then lower the amount of segments so that you have less teeth on there. And it would be really an easy conversion. And you can do it for all these repeating parts too. For this area, maybe it's very good for organic modeling. So say this moss that's on the trees in this hill here, you could very easily array this moss with like a noise, and it would automatically grow onto parts that would be organically placed, so it wouldn't be kind of handmade, but also you can always go back if your client's like, I want some moss just on this part of the tree here. You could go back and paint in that little bit, and you would have all of this automatic content, and then you could just have a little bit of manual stuff just to create the look that they're looking for. For this image on the right, you could create like an automatic forest, whatever. Everything's really basic, and then just create a little tool that makes any spline that you draw into a road, and it'll carve out the little piece in the ground and everything so that you can create interesting shapes with your spline. And then later, if your client is like, I don't like how, or I want it to go more out to each side, or maybe I want this angle to finish over to the left here versus the right, you could just move that spline and it would automatically move your whole system so that you could set up more images. So a really common part of proceduralism is repetition. So you see that here with exact clones of like stairs and guardrails on this staircase. On the left here, you can clone them along like a line or something, and then add slight variation in like the texture, but keep the geometry the same. And on the right here, you can have tons and tons of things that are almost identical on like this would be easy to do with like a ground displacement, and all you'd have to do is then simulate these little flames on there. Alright, so let's go to the next one. Repetition is huge in the real world, and it's a very powerful tool in proceduralism. So you could very easily make a whole row of chains by just creating one of these segments and then cloning and then rotating by 90% and then cloning and then rotating by 90% and then it would, or 90 degrees, sorry, and it would run this whole line. You can create these buildings that would just go on and on forever by just basically copying pasting them by like, I don't know, 5 meters each time and just running that along. Scaffolding is a very common thing to do with proceduralism just because it's that very complex shape, but it really is only a complex shape for this amount of it, and then all you have to do is clone it vertical, and now you have this very intricate skeleton. And these chairs I thought were a good example because you could clone these chairs all the way out, whatever, and then afterwards you can go with your brush and just select this many of them and just make them all yellow, and you can draw out a like a team name or whatever. And you can also do it where you import the team name and then you use that as a mask to create the selection for the chairs to draw something out. So architecture, a lot of architecture has these repeating shapes, whether it's this, again, similar to the scaffolding, or just these automatic things. So if you had this as a straight line and then you had all these little connectors, and then all you'd have to do in a procedural setup is just bend this curve and it would create this whole system. And yeah, just like similar to the other stadium here, that repetition of maybe these arches or all these very actually simple shapes that you can elaborate on to make them look more real. Here's a good example, more repetition, but you can just make a quick system to make holes in a building and push uh, windows out, or push them in rather. And these staircases that just go up forever are the same thing. You can, this one looks like it may have even been done in a 3D software just because you can see all the electrical is the same on each floor. Okay. Bridges, another example of repetition. The wires, the grid on this one, the planks, all very easily replicated, and then you can attach it to a spline that runs this whole thing that defines the shape, and then all you'd have to do to adjust it if it bent over too much or you wanted it to sway is you would just you could animate the spline for the sway, or you could tighten it up by pushing that spline vertical, and then it would look more like a flat, tighter bridge. This one, very similar. You could use a nice circular spline to define the bottom of the geometry, and then you could just have these automatic pillars connecting the top of it to the bottom of it. And this, again, a lot of repetition all the way around here too. That's a long bridge. This shape is, we've as humans defined a lot of the shapes we find in nature with mathematics, and all of these can be made with something called L systems, in Houdini and Cinema and couple other programs. But basically what it does is you can see that all these are slightly offset, but actually offset the same amount each time. So you can put a rule in where it goes up X amount, kicks off a strand, and it makes this leaf system, and it goes up and it kicks off a strand. And you can do this for any of these. So even with the leaves, it goes up and it kicks off two leaves, and it goes up and it kicks off two leaves, and it does that all the way out. These spikes you can define with an L system if you wanted, or you could just make it with some noise for randomly generating these spikes and shapes and colors. And for this pine cone, you could do a very simple cloning system where you rotate it around a central area. In nature, you have a lot of textures and shapes that are made by like weathering and breaking down of things. So a lot of these can be achieved through noises or just automatic generation. I thought that this was a nice example because these are either hexagons or octagons or that sort of shape, and you can just array out a ton of those shapes, extrude them up, give them different height values based on a noise, and you can get this really nice wavy set of very organic looking shapes, even though this looks a little inorganic in real life because it's very weird to see these kind of solid blocks of rock. In the mountains too, there's a lot of good tools for making mountains in a lot of programs. Yeah, so let's hop in with Houdini. I'm gonna start by showing you a project I did yesterday for this class, and we're gonna make a village like here. And then after that, we'll go and hop into Cinema, and I'll show you how I made this very unique shape. Alright, so the first thing you're going to see in this scene is my rock here. Basically, what you'd be, how I made this lump of rock is I took a sphere here. There it is. I gave it a bit of a high poly count so that I could distort it. I have this mountain node, which basically deforms the geometry based on a noise that I input. I have a transform, poly reduce to make it a little more lightweight, a remesh to make it a nice even distribution of the mesh, a transform just to make it smaller and put it on the ground, and then that outputs. So the main point of this rock, or the main thing that's driving all this is this mountain. Like if I were to bypass this so that it's not working anymore, it would just be a weird sphere. So let's take a look at this rock. Let's take it and drag it out. And, oh, not like that. Like this. All right, and let's take a look at that. I want to make a bunch of these so I can cover a landscape. So we're going to take our so basically this mountain is defined by like creating a noise over the whole shape, and it's displacing the geometry up and down and around to make it go from this nice sphere to this warped shape. So if I take my mountain here and I uh, go over here, there's different types of noises. And initially I thought maybe I could make this as an option to drive drive the different kinds of rocks that I wanted in my scene. But as I went through here, I kind of noticed that these different noises created very different rocks, almost like from a different planet, sort of. I think there was one that was really uh, weird. But yeah, like this one. like this could be more of a crystal rock or something like that, but that's really just not what I'm going for. So I really just wanted to stay with the same noise. But now I need to figure out a way to change this rock into, 100 different versions for my scene. So if I come over here to the offset, I can animate this, and now I have hundreds, infinite rocks at my disposal if by just offsetting this, right? Many rocks as I'll ever need just by offsetting that. So basically what I did is I took this rock, I output it here, and I just put it in my machine. And what my machine's going to do is it's going to just lay out a bunch of them of the different versions. So in here I have just a for loop. So if you're familiar with coding, this is a very common practice. In this for loop, I have this data that it's outputting. So basically, for each copy of the for loop, it's going to say, hey, I need a different rock to go for the next iteration on this for loop. And it's going to grab a new one from up here. So we can get rid of this one. It's telling the mountain node up here with uh, this right here, this code. It's basically fit within the range of -1 to there. It really doesn't matter for this because we're just grabbing a random number. And then it says random plus the seed, and then this is the code from right here. I just right clicked on here and did copy parameter and then pasted it up there. Okay, so I have my for loop, and now I have my rock here, right over here, and I'm just going to lay it out on a small grid. So I have my grid here, right? And I scattered some, my grid is here. Yep. I can actually just make that a little smaller. I have my grid here. I scattered some points on it, if you can see them. Hold on, let me get this on. Yeah, you see the numbers for each point. I scattered the points on the grid, and now I'm just copying to point here. So I'm copying my rocks to that point, and now you'll see, oh, let me turn that back off. All my different rocks are here. So now I have a machine that will build me as many rocks as I want, and they're all different, and they're all unique, and maybe even I render out a path that looks like this, and I send it off to someone, and they're like, oh, I want this one and this one and this one, but I'm not too fond of that one or that one. And then I can figure out what parameters make those versus those and dial it in for exactly what kinds of rocks I want. So now I have my rock generator, right? So the next thing from my village that I thought I wanted were some houses. So I started over here. I got a box, and I took that box and split it a few different ways here. First off, I came over here and I shrunk it down, and then I booleaned it out of the original house, and I randomized the scale vertically of this. So right now it's a window, but maybe it could be a door if this is bigger. So I get these random hole sizes in this building. Uh, and over here, I moved this square up from where it was, and then I edited the geometry a little bit to be this house, or this roof shape. And then I took this, I selected this area and I added that random amount, and it's going to pick a number between, like, let's say 0 and 2, and it's going to pull between those, and it's going to give me some random roof heights for my buildings so that I can get a more dynamic look for my scene. So then I translated it so that it fit nicely on the house. I then merged them together. Now I have these houses. Just moved it up so that it was sitting nicely on the plane. And that's our house. So let's take our house and plug him into here instead, into our machine. And our machine's going to go and copy to the points again, and we'll see what we get on the output here. Oh, looks like they're a little too dense. We can probably just move the size to be a bit bigger. Yep, so now we have all these houses. They have different size holes. Some have windows like that, some have doors like this, and some have tall roofs, some have short roofs. Now, what if the person who is directing this comes to me and says, "Well, I really like the flat roofs and the slightly higher roofs, but I don't really love the really tall ones." So all I'd have to do is then lower that maximum amount, and then I have more of these houses that are in between this range. So now, the next thing in my village, I was like, oh, maybe I'll add some trees, because that seems like a simple thing to do. Spruce it up, you know? So I got a cylinder, moved it up, grabbed the bottom, gave that a random value so that I could squeeze or shrink or expand the width of the tree. Then I just made two smaller ones on top of that, merged them together, and there you go. I got a tree. So now all I had to do was transform that up a little bit so it's sitting on the ground, get our tree, and then plug that straight into here, into our machine again. So now, just like before, we spread these out, and now I have a forest of different sized trees all spread out evenly on this surface. And yeah, it gives you some nice variation. If you wanted a more dense forest, you would just scatter more points on the forest, and now all of a sudden you have this randomized kind of forest element that you can texture and do whatever with to create a background for a scene or even a foreground if you pull the textures and assets up to a high enough level. So next I thought I want to put them all together. So my idea for doing that is I just grabbed a switch here and I told it for every time that it asks for a object, uh, switch this from a random number from 0 to 2. 0 is 1, that's how the switch works. Like if like the first input is 0 and then it goes up. So if I just plug all these into my switch here, there we go, and then throw that into my machine, and now, bam, there you go. I have a village.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
How do you not end up with like things merging, if that makes sense? Like how do you know that there's like no 2 points together? Like how is that like basically my thing is like how is there no like house and tree that are kind of like meshing together, basically?
Okay, so my scatter, um, so I have this grid right here, and I'm scattering points on the grid, and the scatter will automatically space these out. here, if I what is it, Control D, Shift D, something like that, I should be able to get my view options because you can't see these, right?
I can kind of see them. I'm like used to looking at it at this point.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I can see them.
Yeah, so the scatter will automatically equally distribute them. Oh, you can probably see it a little better there.
So then each point will only get one element, even if those elements are different.
Yeah, so what it's doing is every one of these points has a number. If I come over here, see how they all have a number? I'm looking for where, well, there's an 8, but yeah, so here's like, there's 4, there's 83, 29, 206. So it's going down, this for loop is taking point number 1, going and grabbing something to copy to the point, and then sending that out, and then going back to the beginning of the for loop until it's done with all the points.
Uh, okay, cool. So basically, if you didn't have the for loop, then you might end up with everything in one place, right?
Yeah, so if you did just the copy to points, it would copy them all to the points. But with
Okay,
with the for loop, you can kind of tell it to do one at a time.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I had my village and I was happy with that, but I thought um maybe there was a little more I could bring to this because I wanted to like render it out and make a nice picture for you guys because why not? Um, so I added some random color attributes. So basically what I set up was a range of color. So I believe this is the roofs. Yeah. So I did the same thing as before. I grabbed this color and I knew that if I varied this number by just a few decimal points, I could go from this yellow to this orange and then get all the colors in between. So now I have this nice thatched roof look. And then I was like, maybe this is a Smurf village. So I decided to make the houses blue because I thought it was a nice contrast. Um, and then I went and made the trees colored. So the bottoms are all just the normal brown trunks, and then up here I have the random colors for the trees. And maybe the guy who's art directing this is like, I don't know about this light of a green. Maybe he wants it to be from like a dark green starting towards like an autumn color, like a lighter brown or something like that, maybe an orange. Um, yeah, so those are the colors. And so after that, I just went and threw a an orange color on this. Here, let me try and open the other folder. I went and threw a ground plane on this, and maybe and I added a ground texture and then a camera, and we should get here it is. All right. So now if we come over here to our render view, so our camera is, yeah, we don't need that right now. Our camera is, where is it? There it is. Here's our camera. So if we just hop in that, this is our little town. I made it a little denser, added a floor with just a normal texture, and I added just one light over there, and then a dome light to give the fill light, and I ended up with this image. So you can create, like, even at this very low polygonal level here, you can kind of source out what you want to show as like you can art direct this in a way that um, in a way that would please uh, your director. So let's say your director is like, I really don't like these tall roofs. We can, after we send out that render, for most people, if they were actually hand placing and doing all this, that would be a lot of work to then go back and fix. But here you can come in, and you know how I set that range earlier with between here -1 and 0.5. If I wanted the roofs to be a little shorter, all I'd have to do is change this to like a, let's say a 3 instead of a 5, and now they're all shorter. So it's good for making systems where you can create a whole load of assets very quickly, and also maybe even work on one asset but in a bunch of different iterations so that you can like find the best parts really quick. So any more questions for the Houdini part of this?
Not really, not right now. Thank you.
Okay. So now we're just going to jump over to Cinema 4D, and I'm going to show you a bit of modeling with proceduralism. I can do this, and you can do either of these things in both programs. I just wanted to be able to show off both and maybe some of the different interfaces. So uh, this is this would, without procedural modeling, this would be a very difficult shape to make. Otherwise, it has very nice topology. It here, if I hit NB, was it? Yeah. Oh well, that's cheating a little bit. That's with the NURBS curves. But it has very clean topology. It there we go. A lot of quads. Um, and would be a nightmare to model normally because you'd be trying to Boolean through, and then you'd have to try and get these nice curved edges, and maybe even lining up a curved dot inside of here would be very rough. So I'm basically just gonna walk you through how I did this so that you can get a better idea of some of the tools in the program. So let's do a can I open like this? Probably not. All right, that's fine. All right, so we're just gonna throw this in a null. The group shortcut is Alt G, and we'll just make it invisible. All right. So um, that geometry was made with the wrap function in Cinema. Instead, you'd think like, oh, you start with a sphere and then you can maybe make some holes and do that, but that gets very messy very quickly because if you were to let's say take this and that and try to make a hole through it like this, maybe do the Boolean, take these two, drop them in there, and do uh, I guess this. Yep. Okay. Let's say I was doing that. And then, just current state that so I can look at the actual geometry. Uh, Oh, well, it's actually, uh, there we go. Yeah. So it's created all these little things, and you can see that it's deforming the light scattering. You can see these little polygons that they don't exist, but they're there because the shape is warped and it's messing up the geometry quite bad, which is most of the time why you don't use a bool, because it will just destroy your geometry. So let's go and try our method. So to make that sphere, I used the wrap deformer. So let's get that. And I used a rectangle to start. So what the wrap deformer does is it'll take your geometry and it'll interpolate it around a cylinder, or actually you can click here for a sphere. So it'll take this plane and wrap it around there. So let's do that. Let's put this wrap deformer on the rectangle. Let's change this. Oh no, it's already there. So it needs there. Yeah, okay. So now you can see it's taken our, I can turn the wrap invisible so you can see it. It's taken our rectangle and it's bent it around this shape. And now what we can do is we can use the extrude on this spline. See, I grabbed this rectangle from up here, so it's one of the splines. Also, uh, probably the most important part of cinema that a lot of programs just don't have for some reason, and I really don't understand, is if you hit Shift C, you can search anything in the program, like anything, like even just like individual settings. So if you're like, oh, I wanna extrude this. So if you do, oh, I have caps lock on. If you do extrude, you get these options here. So like there's this extrude, and there's this extrude. So for this project, we're going to use the Mo extrude because that tends to be the most dynamic one. These green tools are like very well embedded in the procedural pipeline. So you're going to want to be checking out these for any works when you're looking for easy ways to model. So let's drop our rectangle into our extrude. And that hasn't quite worked the way we want it to. Um, let's see. So let's go to our extrude. Um, let's see. Let's play with a few options here. Round, direction, uh, end gun. Ah, here we go. If we change this to regular grid, that looks a little better, but it still needs to curve around. Um, you know what we should probably do? What we did before is we took that if I turn our wrap off for a second, we took our rectangle and we projected it onto the wrap. And what we should do is now we've created this geometry here, and we should take this and wrap it to there. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to take the wrap out of here and select all these, and we're just going to put them in a null by grouping them. And there we go. And if we turn our wrap back on, yep, now we have nicely wrapped around this sphere. Let's take our extrude, lower the offset a little bit. There we go. Now we have a nice sphere here. So, now I made those nice circular holes before. Actually, what we can do is we can just come over to our wrap quick and see this. We can just put it up to the top put that up to the top. And now we have a nice half circle. What we don't, if you can see on here, we have nice squares. And when we don't have the wrap on, we have nice squares. And what we want to do is try our best to preserve that geometry. So when we have our wrap on, we have nice squares, but what we don't want to do is, what is it? This one? Yeah. What we don't want to do is close the back of it like this, because all we're doing is deforming that geometry. We're making it into big rectangles like this. So ideally, we want to keep those squares so that we have correct geometry like in our eyes. Um, let's see, 180. Yeah, there we go. All right. So let's see. Let's try to make a hole here. So let's try just adding a circle to here and seeing what happens. So we got our circle. Maybe we scale that down just a little bit. Um, when I'm cycling through these, like that's the rotate tool, that's the move tool, that's the scale tool. Those are just up here. I'm using E for move, R for rotate, and T for scale. And those are just the keyboard shortcuts. So yeah, let's try dropping this into the extrude here. So what it's doing is it's just picking one. It's picking the circle over the rectangle here, just because of the order of operations going on here. Depending on which one's on top, it'll pick that one. So let's see. What we need to do, hold on, let me just make sure I'm on the right track here. Yeah, okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to drop it into a connect. So our circle here and our rectangle are actually one spline. And then we'll see what that does. So we'll come up here. If we click on our extrude and we hold shift and grab something, it'll put it under it. And if we hold alt, it'll put the extrude in it. So let me just show you what I'm talking about. If I hold alt and I go and grab this connect, it'll put it in this at this point in the hierarchy. And if I go to the extrude and I hold shift and I come up here and I grab the connect, it'll put it underneath it in the hierarchy. So let's drop these into the connect, and there you go. Now we have this very nice hole in the geometry using quads to cut the hole out with nearly seamless results. So what I had before in the last shot was nice rounded edges. And we can actually do that in the extrude itself. So if we come over to the caps tab here, and we're already on rounded, but if we just up the size here, there, now we have these nice beveled edges. And it's all worked straight into the geometry. And this would be a pain to do by hand. So let's take this extrude, maybe lower the offset, make it a little thinner. There we go. All right, so now we have this nice hole with a bevel, and it goes all the way around. So at any point now, again, like massive, massive reason that you use proceduralism in your modeling is now if you wanted this, if somebody came back to you and was like, that hole is way too big, all you have to do is grab your circle from your hierarchy and just scale it down. And it gives you that live, perfect geometry update. You can move it around, and it gives you that instant feedback that you ideally want when you're modeling something complex. Yeah. So now what we want to do is we want to close up this other side because this is a little weird. Like maybe you would use this for like an eyeball if you wanted to use a separate geometry on the inside. But other than that, this is kind of useless as it is. So we're just going to wrap it around. But again, I said we can't use the wrap deformer to just pull it around because that will, like I said, stretch our geometry. And look, it's even stretched our circle, which is not what we want. We want full control over this area with no kind of uh, exceptions. So if we go back to 180 here, so that it's nice and square, what if you remember what it's doing is it's grabbing our rectangle and stretching it around this geometry here. So what we're going to do is just make the rectangle wider this way, and then it'll have more geometry to wrap all the way around. So we've got halfway now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to double our width. So in cinema, there's this awesome thing. If you want to like double, triple, just increase something a whole lot, all you have to do is come into this little panel here, wherever your number is, and you can just do times two, and it'll double what you're working on. Um, it looks like we have a bit of a seam here from the bevel, so let's just, I'll do like a plus 10. We'll do one more 10, plus 10, there we go. So we'll fix that later, but that's a nice perfect sphere. If I hit this, we have nice flat shading, almost no line anywhere on the sphere, very nice geometry. And that's because we have those perfect squares all over the place. This is really good for taking a texture or unwrapping or anything like that. It's very nice to have squares. Um, all right, so what we have here is our first hole. And now, like you saw in my other one, I actually want to I want to add some more holes to this. Uh, First off, I want to be able to see what I'm working on. And this isn't like a built-in thing, but I've realized that this works really well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my connect, and I'm just going to instance it into this extrude. So I'm going to come up here while it's selected and just grab my instance, and there you go. So now this is copying my connect, and I'm going to drop the instance into the actual one here, and then I'm going to pull my connect out over here. Yeah, actually, I could even pull it all the way out. Yep, there we go. Um, I don't think I can make this any bigger for you guys. Maybe like that, but um, can I make them bigger? Uh, Icon size large. There we go. All right. So so now I have this layout of my rectangle that I wrapped around and my circle. Let me just grab that and just move it up so that we can see it. All right. And I'll just grab the whole thing and move it out of the cross grid. All right. So now I have my circle here, and I have this wonderful presentation of where my dot is, right? That's really just excellent instant geometry, whatever. But now I want to do it around so I can get that interesting shape that I had before. So all I have to do for that is just copy this over here, and it'll just make that hole for me. Instant fix the geometry, everything. So let's move him over here. And actually what's great about this is since I know that my rectangle is like 800 wide and I want to go just over this way, we can move along exact axes. So if I wanted it to be perfectly square, all I'd have to do is move it over 200. So I'm going to do minus 200. And there we go. We have this nice circle here. Maybe I want to scale them both. So let's just bring up that size a bit. Actually, what I'm going to do is just grab this one real quick and scale it to the size I want. Maybe a little smaller. There we go. And then I can pull it over here. So what I'm doing when I am copying them is I'm getting the move tool and I'm holding control and I can just control grab a copy like this. And it'll just instantly make a copy for me. You can do that in almost any program, including like Photoshop, Illustrator, that sort of thing. It's a very useful tool to know. I'm just going to put one on this side too. Put that at 200. And there we go. Now we have 3 of our holes here, and it's all set out. So there is one issue though. There's a seam here, and this circle isn't going to play nice with this seam, if you see. It's kind of just going to make a mess of geometry and not really work. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to subtract this circle from our initial shape. So let's move it over by that exact amount. Let's grab it here, make it 400, grab it, pull it over here. We'll make that negative 400. Nice, perfect. All right, so now what we're going to do, so these two here need to subtract from our rectangle. So here we're going to use a very nifty tool that Cinema has called, let's find it first, the spline mask. So this is going to let you do like really clean booleans at the spline level. So we're going to take our spline mask, throw it in our connect, because once everything's connected, it's very easy to use. Grab our rectangle, and then grab our 2 spheres, drop those in there, and now we have little nubs on either side, which isn't exactly what we want. We want it to subtract and not add. So we're going to come into our spline mask. And it says union, and we're going to change that to subtract. Yep, and now we have our perfect hole on the other side. Very nice. So now I want to make the hole on the top and bottom. Now you'd think earlier on I just grabbed the warp and I pushed it up there. I closed it before. So why wouldn't I just do that again? Well, let's try it. So if I just grab this and I pull it back, it's deforming our squares again. So it's squishing our circle. So that's not something we want. So instead of doing this at the wrap level, which we've learned it doesn't work so well, we're going to actually change the rectangle like we did before when we wanted it to wrap all the way around. So let's take our rectangle and our scale, and let's just scale it down vertically. Oh, hold on. Let's go into our numbers and we can just change the height. So let's bring the height down, and you can see as I do that, it'll automatically calculate this hole for me. And when I think it's about right, compared to the other circles, I can stop, and there you go. There's that wonderful shape that's near impossible to make otherwise. that um, is ready for texturing and good to go. And it's also ready for any other kind of manipulation that you want to do to it. Like I take this, let's say I want just some more little holes like the example, just like over here. This is like the map of your geometry, and this is what's going to let you art direct anything you want. So you can take this circle right here and just pull it out, pull it up here maybe, and do a shrink. And now you have this perfect hole right here. And you can add like little bubbles wherever you want. I'll just make it nice and small, and then I'll just drag out a bunch of them. We can do here and here, throw them all about. Maybe we'll do like a grid kind of thing with some mistakes. We're gonna Swiss cheese this thing, because why not? And there you go. Now we have this geometry that we made pretty much in no time at all. That's really clean. If I hit NA, there we go. It's really clean. Got very nice curves. There's a mistake there. I can probably figure out what that is. So that's this one. Of course, I need to find it now. Ah, there it is. All right. So, huh. All right. Well, there we go. Very nice, clean geometry. Good to go. And what we're going to do next is we're just going to grab it and uh, let's throw it in a cloner, because why not? I'm going off the rails now. This is not part of the initially scheduled program. So if you have any questions, please just like stop me and go ahead.
No question so far. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's probably this one. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like I must have messed up placing those last three. Uh, yeah, those last four ones. But yeah, otherwise these are doing just fine. So let's just, now that we have this excellent geometry, what we're going to do is we're just going to current state it. So what you do by current stating is just, it's doing all these calculations to allow you to change this geometry whenever you want. And by current stating, all I'm going to do is compress it into that final geometry. So come over here, current state object. Yep, here it is. So now if I turn the rest of this stuff invisible, so just hit this tag and that tag. This guy, I don't need any of these extra tags on here. This guy is now our geometry, and it's super lightweight. It's very nicely done. Um, let's see. So let's put this axis in the middle. Mm. Oh, let's put this axis in the middle. Let's go to mesh, axis, center to object. Put that in the middle. And let's try throwing it in a cloner. Because why not? And now we have a bunch of them. And now you can see that uh, this idea of repetition is very alluring because you can very quickly turn anything into a an art piece by just duplicating it. So make it a little bigger. There we go. So let's throw some keyframes in here. So what I'm doing now is I'm just animating the rotation per step. So you can see here, as it goes in, it's going to amplify this effect. And we can do endpoint, so it's going to do this animation just to the endpoint. It's going to interpolate in between. That might be a little slower and nicer to watch. But yeah, now you can achieve this very tedious animation with relative ease.
That's really cool.
And it's just this lightweight little item that you can just put anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
If I wanted to get really fancy, I could. Um, so baking to alembic in cinema is basically baking this animation into just the geometry moving. And what it's going to do is it's going to give me an item, like just straight geometry, no cloner or anything that does the animation. And this is so easy for the computer to process that I can now take it, drop it in a cloner, and I have a ton of them. I can turn the other one off so it's not processing too, but yeah.
This is also available in Houdini, right?
Yep.
Thank God, because I was wondering about that.
Yeah, everything in cinema is available in Houdini, and actually there's a lot of things in Houdini that aren't available anywhere else. So a lot of programs like this one will do a extensions and where is it? There it is, Houdini engine.
Okay.
So that you can try to port your Houdini stuff into this program because it's such a specific tool that nothing else can really get to its level. So there's import systems in every program to try and pull the information from Houdini, try to convert it into native stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, also with ZBrush, the other program that's being taught, it is very good at hand sculpting and that kind of thing. That's not
Yeah.
really my best area of expertise, but uh, yeah, and then we can just yeah, and you can imagine this in some kind of steampunk world or something like that.
Yeah, this could be something really cool. Whenever you move the original sphere, it looks like an eyeball.
Oh yeah, the Hold
when you
on,
had the
yeah.
original sphere with just the hole.
Yeah, let me turn that back on. And we don't need 90% of these. There it is.
Yep.
And then we'll just make this guy 400.
Yeah, whenever you move that, it's looking like an eyeball.
Yeah, so it's really good for that sort of thing. Like other programs really just can't handle this particular movement of geometry at the like polygon level. Like in another program, what you would do is you would make something like this, and then you would bake it out into like a physical mesh like this, and then you could grab the whole thing and hold on a second. And then you could grab the whole thing and move it like this, like an eyeball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's basically what I'm used to be honest.
Yeah. But
It's much better the way you're doing it. It's so much better.
yeah, it's just very intuitive to even just to have this area here. Yeah.
So my main question is like, when do you use Houdini versus C4D?
So personally, I use because I'm more comfortable in cinema, I use it for a lot of the mesh building. So cinema has a lot of good tools for just like drawing things out. So if I wanted, let's just grab an image off my computer. This is gonna be fun. Uh, if I wanted to make, come on, where are my pictures? Oh, they're on my desktop, right? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So let's say, yeah, let's use that. Okay, so middle click to get the multiple perspectives. So right, top, whatever. All programs have this. It's a little different in each program how to get there, but middle click gets you there in this. And then you can like middle click into each of these to like get there. Um, so if I go here and I do Shift V, I can get these settings. Look at the back, and then we can just go to desktop and grab. I don't really have any of those images, but where's that car? There it is. All right. So here's a car that I made at some point. You know what? Let's just do this. File, new project. Uh, oh, that's another great thing. You can just do that really quickly in this. Um, so what we're gonna do, add some geometry, uh, make it editable. So this is what I use Cinema for. I will take my polygon pen. You can basically just draw polygons with this. It's very useful for like that sort of thing. And I'm going to come into my side view here of this
Yep.
car, and I'm like, oh, this looks like a kind of cylinder cone, whatever. But for the shape of the body, I'm going to go like here, maybe pull it out to there, maybe stop there. uh, add a loop to that, create another one that comes out here, drag that to the corner, pull this out for the door, maybe slide this up here for the door, maybe even add another bottom piece so that it's isolated. So this is mostly what I use Cinema for like starting from absolute scratch and building geometry.
Okay.
So yeah, let's say that the car kind of looks like that, roughly. So now I can come into here and be like, ah, yeah, so like that's my door, that's the front of my car. Obviously, normally I would do a lot more, but if I come into here now and I select all these polygons. Actually, I don't need that one. Let me get rid of that one. Any program, Control A is select all. And I extrude them like this.
Hmm.
Maybe even a lot more than that because it's a car.
Yeah.
Pull it like that. Um, Now, oh, I want to close that. Let's just do that. Oh, wait. Hmm. Oh, I see. Had to do that earlier. There we go. Now it's closed. Now we have our car. Um, let's just make the back end really quick. Um, and let's say there's a loop here. If I, oh, no, that's not what I want. If you right click while you have like these different things set up, you can grab the tools relevant to those settings.
Mhm.
So let's just bevel. Oh, really? Okay. Uh, let's um, let's do this. I must have done something to deserve that. There we go. Optimize should be fine now. All right. So if we now bevel, huh? Oh, I know what I did. I had caps on when I did this extrude.
Okay.
So I just got to turn this off because it made like another polygon on the inside here. Like if I do that now, there's nothing in here, right? But if I leave this on and I do that,
Creates one.
now there's a plane in here,
Yeah.
which sometimes you want, but I didn't want, so it messed me up. Let's do that, and then we can grab this loop, and then we can bevel it to make two, and let's do the same over here. And now let's do a little bit of that and that. And now we can do extrude. Not quite. And do a little bit of this. And then maybe we want separators of some sort. So we'll do that. And then we can, let's just do it over here. do that. Bring it over here. And then we can go to our points and, oh, actually what I should do quick is just cut a loop there, there, there. And now if we go to our points, we can weld some together. So let's just grab these two, weld them, grab, yeah, these two, weld them, these two, weld them. So like there's just a lot of tools for actual like modeling
Yeah.
in this program, which is really what I use it for. Um, that's something Houdini's really good at making like uh, organic shapes if you use organic modeling techniques like using noises and using geometry displacement, that sort of thing. But it's not very quick. So if you wanted like a really quick uh, like layout of something, or even just if you were doing a long project where you were going to make a big model for something, you probably don't want to use Houdini exclusively unless you're going to like then take that model and simulate it or something.
Hmm.
It's more of a boat than a car, but but yeah.
I mean, you've made this in record times.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of the reason why I choose cinema for this stuff. It's really quick. Yeah, and normally if you were modeling something like this, you would get at least two photos of this, and one would be from like exactly the side, and one would be from exactly the front, and you would set the side one up here and the front one up here, and you'd be able to like suss out the whole model from that. Let me see. So I do these things. I call them, just daily renders. I try to do. I've done 102 days of rendering every day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats. That's that's really nice. That's dedication.
Yeah. It's just been like trying to work on it. So it really just like upped my skill, which is, I love that. But it gives me these opportunities to like go back and be like, oh, I did that and I know exactly how that works. I have the source file for it, and I can be like, oh, let me just grab that quick. Um, yeah, there's some really exciting stuff you can do in cinema. Oh, one great thing about procedural is you can pump. Oh, sorry if that was really loud.
I didn't hear any sound at all, actually.
Oh, good. You can pump music into like a displacer, and you can use it to like drive parameters. So this is like drawing sound waves right now.
I could really use this actually. Is there a tutorial for this? Oh my god. I feel like you show me so many things and I'm like, oh my god, I could use this.
Yeah, so it's riding like the high pitched here and the bass on the other axis. Yeah.
So wait, what did you make that into? Like the thing that's you said Houdini or
This one was cinema. I've done sound displacement in Houdini before, but I haven't. I think this one was Houdini. but this was like, my seventh one, so I've actually grown a lot just in the in the past 100 days, I guess. But
I mean, damn, bro.
yeah.
Oh, this is cool.
So, what programming goes into that?
So
Like,
like let's say these front ones, right? Here, let me so, so really you're just you're driving displacement based on volume in the different like pitches. So this yellow one back here is based off the bass, and so is the ground. And all it does is whenever the bass kicks, it'll translate the top of this up, right? And it'll produce more light just because it's bigger. And then these, if we go to the front, there's less yellow, so it's easier to see the other elements. But over here is like pretty much the wave of sound. Like the front here is the bass, so it's not kicking yet, but the higher pitches are going back here. And you'll see right now the front picks up too. And these blue ones are also just the sound. So it's like this is I guess the highest pitch, and then this would be lower, but this didn't go all the way to the bass. It's just all the higher pitches. And you're just plugging them into like vertical or the y-axis on the translate.
I see. Very cool.
Yeah, I
How
thought that
long did how long did it take to make that stuff?
so I really like making this sort of stuff because it really doesn't take that long and it's really gratifying because all you're doing is you're telling all these squares, you're like, hey, you're being driven by this parameter. And then they just go. Like you just add the music and they'll just automatically work? That's why I was
Hmm,
able to render out 3 minutes of this.
cool.
Um,
This is hella cool. Like,
some, let's see, I did a shattering banana because that was fun. Uh, Look for some more oh, I did a piano that plays off the sound. That was pretty cool. It's playing Neon Cat, but you can't hear it, so. Some water simulations.
yeah.
Um, Disintegration. This is Houdini.
Okay.
Um, I don't remember what. So this was for my final project last semester. I
Mm-hmm.
did this heart that was kind of exploding with eventually I changed it to blue light, but it was initially like a fireball like this.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Uh, oh, some fabric simulations with air inflating them. That was Houdini. That was fun. Um, oh, you might like this, the flocking animation. So all of these points are looking at all the other points, and sometimes they'll try to stick together with other ones, but if they get too close, they'll repel. So it's kind of like a bird flocking.
I see. How do you think of this?
Uh, for the most part, I get the inspiration from going on the forums of like r/Houdini or just like I go on Instagram and I like look at what other people are doing and I'm like, oh, look at that. That's uh that's really nifty. I'm gonna see if I can try and do that. And it might not be the same program that we're using, it might not be the whatever, but it's like just a little bit of inspiration to be like, oh, well, that's perfect. I'll try that. That looks like a lot of fun. Shameless plug, if you want to follow my Instagram, I post all of these.
Okay, what is it?
Uh, Hafen.exr, uh, 1F. I can I'll drop it in the casual chat just to be that guy.
Do it.
Oh, actually, yeah, I'll do that, but I'll drop the link in there too, just to be the ultimate shameless plug.
It'd be like that.
Uh, of course, I would need to know how to share it. Oh, I bet I could do it if I do this. Oh, that doesn't work. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea how to do it. Whatever. Um, anyways, yeah, and then I translated that flocking system into 3D, so it's doing it in all dimensions, and now it's sorting by color.
Damn, this is so cool. Like I know I've been repeating this like an idiot, but like I don't know what to
No, I'm glad you like it. Like,
like it's like the words. Like I got two words left in my brain. It's just so cool.
I like this one because you can watch it like a fish tank.
This is the thing. A lot of this stuff is like low key synoptic, so it's like you just don't get tired of watching it low key.
Yeah, and I made like a nice little bounding box so that they didn't escape. And then I just made it a glass material.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Honestly,
think.
this look here reminding me of the Tesseract.
Yeah.
I'm just like it would have been so cool if Tesseract actually like if the insides of it moved like that low key. It was really cool.
So yeah, I've just kind of been doing like little
Is that a hand?
simulation things. Oh, this one?
Yes.
Yeah. So I made this like surfacing thing that like automatically makes these little diamonds on a surface, and they're animated. Let me try and open this. It's always really annoying. Open with this one. Did that work? Ah, there we go.
Um,
Yeah. So it'll just like it'll pick the geometry off the ground and then like clone it in and then do that same rotation thing that we were doing just before in cinema.
okay.
And it'll just extrude and shrink and then come back out and expand. Yeah. A little bit of target tracking.
Bruh.
Yeah, that one was a good one. I liked that one.
It's really fun.
Have you heard of a double pendulum?
I have.
Yeah, so this is just a double pendulum that's drawing something. So in Houdini, all I had to do for this one was simulate the double pendulum, and then I just had it trace from that point, and then it just traced this out.
My mind has been blown many times by this.
Oh, did I ever
Yeah.
finish this? Oh, I did.
Like I'm just looking at this stuff and I'm like, I don't know how to make this, but just it's cool stuff. That is a huge basketball. Or small, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Where did you start?
Pretty
Um, Yeah, in what regard?
Like
Like
learning
program?
how to, yeah.
I started, I guess the same as anyone else at NJIT, just like I did the basic foundation with 3ds Max and Revit and all
Yeah.
that, and I realized that 3ds Max was the best of the bunch, but still not very good. Um, and then one of the seniors just kind of like picked me up and was like, "Hey, you need to use Cinema," and I was like, "All right, sure." So I started using that, and I used that for my whole first semester. And then after that, I started moving towards Houdini.
Danielle, what year are you?
Oh, I'm a freshman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. My favorite was Rhino. Like I still used it like for my last project. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Like
This kid, Alex Sopridge, used Rhino for a really long time. He made like a ton of cool tanks and stuff.
Hello, I have popped in. I mean, I've been here the whole time listening, but working silently. Um, to I can't see everybody's names. Who was just talking?
Uh,
Okay, well,
yeah.
whoever whoever was just talking. Jesus Christ, my monitor keeps turning off.
We,
Um, whoever was just talking, Rhino. Really, all of the 3D programs that you learn your freshman year. Um, they teach you like a really good understanding of like how to 3D model and like what it is. But honestly, I don't recommend using any of them. And if you do, 3DS is the only one that you would use in digital design. If you're not a digital designer, that's completely fine. But you will never use Rhino in any digital design firm because I also enjoyed Rhino the most. And I found out sophomore year that it is not applicable to our career. So I
yeah.
recommend hopping in any of the other programs like quickly just so you don't get too attached to it. Because it only hurts more later, as I found
yeah.
out.
I relate a lot. It's a thing I'm currently finding out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's but honestly, like the knowledge of 3D modeling, like how polygons work and how objects work and procedural versus organic and stuff like that applies to pretty much any type of 3D modeling. Like even CAD is kind of similar but not as pretty or easy. like
I hate God.
but yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Also, Max, quick question. I'm
Go for it.
trying to so I have some spheres and a meta ball. I'm trying to make my cave. Like I'm gonna use the interior of this.
Do you want to share
Um,
your screen?
I can't talk and share my screen at the same time.
Ah, okay.
I'm just like messing around with ways to do it quickly. But I have got two spheres and a meta ball, and that's working very nicely. I like it. Um, and now I'm trying to throw a displacer on it to make it all bumpy, just kind of like randomly. I have the displacer under the metal ball with the spheres, but I can't get it to work. Any ideas? And
So
if I put it under one of the spheres, it like remerges the spheres together. It's very strange.
so currently you have this.
Yes, basically.
Oh,
And I think I have it at like 100, 100 or something, so it's a little bit higher or
for
lower.
the meta ball,
Yeah, for the metal ball.
for the editor subdivision.
Yes, I think so. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. What size are your spheres?
Um, they're just the basic 124 standard.
Okay. And they look like this?
Hull for Metaball, the hull value percentage is 10%. Sorry, I forgot that. And then just drag apart the spheres a little bit.
Okay,
Yeah, that's basically what I have with a little tunnel kind of thing.
I see.
Yeah.
So what are you trying to achieve?
I'm just trying to make it bumpy with a displacement,
And
or with the displacer, the purple one.
do you want it to continue to animate? Like, are you trying to do this with it,
No,
or?
no. This is literally just like so I can make this the shell of my cave, basically.
Oh, okay. I would take your metable, uh, current state it, and then throw a displacer on that.
Okay, word. Let's see. And I put it under.
Yeah, the displacer goes under it. Go to shading, grab some noise.
Oh, maybe that's why it wasn't working. I didn't have noise. Oh, there it is. Well, okay. Thank you. I'm gonna
Okay,
continue messing around.
okay, no problem.